Welcome to another Scratch lesson. In this lesson, we will learn about cloning in Scratch. But first, what is cloning? As per the Wikipedia, cloning is the process of producing individuals with identical or virtually identical DNA, either naturally or artificially. But in Scratch, cloning simply means making a copy or duplicate of a sprite. Cloning is important when designing a game. So in this lesson, we will try to create a game by using cloning in Scratch. Coming to the game in Scratch, first let me show you the game. Initially, I have 5 lives, and then when I press on the green flag, you will see the welcome screen, and then the game starts in 3 seconds. I will have to collect an egg that is falling down with the help of a container, and then every time I collect an egg, the score increases by 1, and then if I let go of this egg, then it's going to decrease the life by 1, and then if it reaches 0, then it's going to say game over. For example, if I let go of an egg, this life becomes 0, and then it says game over. So this is the game that we are going to create in this lesson. So let's get started. For the game that I'm going to create in this lesson, I'm not going to use this sprite, so I will just remove this one. Then I'm going to choose a sprite called as egg, and simply type egg here, and then I'm going to select this one. Then I'm going to adjust the size of this egg, so I will change the size to around 60, and then I'm going to select another sprite. This time I'm going to select a container. So I'm going to click on this sprite, and then I'm going to adjust it somewhere here, and I'm going to also select the backdrop by clicking on this button. Then so from here I'm going to select the backdrop called as the stars, and then I'm going to click on this backdrop, and then I'm going to position somewhere here, and then I'm ready. So I have the sprites, I also have the backdrop, and then the first thing that I want to do is I want to control the container with the help of my mouse. So every time I move my mouse pointer towards the right hand side, this container should move towards the right hand side, and when I move towards the left, this container should also move towards the left. I don't want my container to move up and down when I move this particular cursor up and down. So that is what I want to create first. So for that, go to events. When green flag is clicked, then I'm going to use this forever loop, and then inside the forever I'm going to make use of this go to X and Y. So instead of going to that particular coordinates, I want to follow the pointer, mouse pointer. So therefore go to sensing, and then select mouse X and then mouse Y. So when I click on this green flag, you will notice that this ball follows my mouse pointer. But like I mentioned, I don't want this container to move up and down. I just want this container to move left and right, which means I have to fix the position of Y. So therefore I will remove this Y, and I'm going to position this back again somewhere here, and then in this case the value of Y is negative 155, so I will just change this one to 155. Now when I click on this green flag again, this ball will move left and right, but it's not going to move up and down. Now it's perfect. Now the next part is, let's try to create the program for the egg. So in our game, this egg should fall down continuously from a random position. So for that purpose, I'm going to make use of the concept called as a cloning. So for that, click on the sprite here, and then go to events, and then first select this when green flag is clicked, and then under control I'm going to make use of the block called create clone of myself. So when I click on this block once, you will notice that it has created a duplicate or a copy of the original sprite. So further, if I click this one once more, so it should create another copy. So this is how you can use cloning in Scratch. And the very good thing about clone is this clone can be moved separately, and then it can also have separate program, and then we can create separate program for this clone. So therefore cloning is important in a game. So in our game I want this clone to move down. So for that I will make use of this block called as the forever block, and then I'm going to generate, or I'm going to create clone every after certain interval. So I'm going to put these things inside, and then I'm going to make use of this wait 1 second, because every after 1 second I want to create a clone of this particular egg. So I'm going to move this sprite on the top, and then when I click on this green flag, is going to create a clone of itself every after 1 second. Of course you will not see the clone right now because the clone is being created on top of this original sprite. If you want to see the clone, you can simply go to motion block, and then when I use this move 10 steps, then you will notice that the clone is being created every after 1 second and after moving forward by 10 steps. So that's how you can create a clone. But for the project that I'm going to create in this lesson, I'm not going to move forward. So after creating a clone every after 1 second, then instead of moving this original sprite, I want the clone to fall down. So for that, go to the control block, and then underneath you will see when I start as a clone. So now this particular block is used to control the clone. So like I've mentioned, we can create a separate program for the clone as well. So therefore underneath this one, I want this clone to fall down. So for example, if this is the clone, I want this clone to move down till here, somewhere here, and after that this clone should automatically hide or get deleted. So for that I'm going to make use of this loop called as repeat until. So which means I want this clone to start from somewhere here, and then it's going to repeat till here, and then if it goes beyond certain coordinates here, then this clone I will delete it. So therefore I'm going to make use of this block called as a repeat until block. So inside this one I'm going to make use of this operator less than. So I'm going to put these things inside, and then I'm going to check the position of y-axis. Obviously the vertical one is the y-axis, so therefore I'm going to make use of this y position. I'm going to check the position of y-axis, and then if the y position of this clone becomes less than, for example in this case it's the position of y is around, let's say I'm going to put somewhere here, and then the position of y is around negative 160. So therefore let's mention this one as negative 160. So if it goes beyond this negative 160, then obviously I'm going to delete this clone. Therefore I will attach this block underneath this one, so which means when, for example, I'm considering this one as a clone, if this clone goes beyond this negative 160, then I'm going to delete this clone. So therefore I'm putting something like this here. So now what should happen after the clone is created and when this is not less than negative 160? So I want this clone to fall down. So therefore go to the motion block, and then underneath this one you will see change y or change x by 10 and change y by 10. So I want this clone to fall down, so therefore I will simply use this change y by 10. So if you use this value, it's going to move up, and then if I change the value to negative 5, it's going to fall down. So now this time when I click on this green flag, you will notice that this clone is falling down one by one, and then when it goes beyond negative 160, then it is being deleted. So that's what I want for my project. Now the next part is instead of falling this clone from the same position, I want this clone to move from the random positions from somewhere here on the top. So for that I will fix the value of y-axis and I will randomly choose the value of x-axis. So therefore let me stop this one first, and then I'm going to select go to x and y. So when I start as a clone, I want this clone to move somewhere randomly in this position. So for that, like I've mentioned, I want this clone to start somewhere from here. So what is the position of this particular sprite at the moment? It's somewhere at 172. So I will just mention this one as 170, and then the value of x, I want it to be randomly from anywhere from here till here. So therefore I'm going to go to operator, and then I'm going to select pick random from 1 to 10. As you know, the value of this x-axis is around 240, negative 240, and then the value of this x-axis is 240. So I want the value of x to be from here till here, and then value of y to be fixed somewhere here. So now this time when I click on this green flag, this should start from a random position. But you will notice that the original sprite stays there on the top, and then it's not looking good. So therefore what I can do is I can hide this sprite. So for that, let me stop this one, and then when green flag is clicked, I want to hide this particular sprite. So for that, go to the looks, and then I can simply hide this sprite like this. But even if you hide this sprite, it will still create a clone. So therefore when I click here, let's see what's happening. When I click on green flag, nothing happens here, because after hiding it we have to show it. So therefore I'm not going to show it here. Instead I'm going to use shows here. So when this clone is being created, I want to show that clone. So therefore now when I click on this green flag, this clone will appear from a random position. Okay, now the next part is, let's fix these things as well. At the moment I can move this container here and there, but I cannot really collect this egg. So therefore let's try to collect the egg with the help of this particular container. So for that I will stop this one, and inside the clone, now we are dealing with the clone. After the clone has been created, I want to check whether those clones touch this particular container or not. So for that I'm going to make use of this if statement by clicking on the control block, and then from here I'm going to select if, and then I'm going to put these things inside this repeat until block. So I'm going to check whether the egg is touching this ball or not. So for that I will go to sensing, then I'm going to select this block, and then I'm going to check whether this egg is touching the ball or not. So if egg touches the ball, obviously I'm going to increase the score. So for that I'm going to go to the variable, and then I'm going to create a variable called as the score. So initially when you start the game, you may want to initialize the value of score to 0. So for that I will drag these things, set, and then set score to 0. So when this green flag is clicked, the value of the score will be set to 0, and every time I collect an egg I want to change the score by 1. So I want to increase the value of score by 1. So let's try this one. So when you click on this green flag, then you can collect this egg, and then you will notice that score adds up, but you will notice that the score adds up by large value. So to solve this problem, what I can do is, when the egg touches the ball, I increase the value by 1. So right after increasing the value of score by 1, I can delete this particular clone. I don't want this clone to go down even after collecting with the help of container, so therefore I can delete this clone right here. So now when I click on this green flag again, and then I can collect this one, so it will collect the egg, and then when I collect this egg, the score gets updated by 1, and also the egg gets disappeared. So that's how you can improve your game. So to make this game a little bit interesting, what I can do is I can add the number of lives or number of try that a player can get. So at the moment, even if I let this egg falls down, it doesn't do anything, and then it doesn't make this game any challenging. So therefore, what I can do is I can create another variable which will store the number of lives. So for that, I will go to variable, and then I will create another variable called as the number of life, and then here I will adjust this life somewhere here, and then like the score, when the game starts, I want to initialize the number of lives. You can start from any number. If you want 5 lives, you can add 5. If you want 10 lives, you can add 10. But in my case, I will set the life to 5. So the player will get 5 try or 5 failure, or you can say 5 lives. So when it reaches to 0, then you will say game over, something like that. So for that, what I can do is, so here this particular loop will check whether this particular goes beyond 160 or not. So if this particular clone goes beyond negative 160, there I'm going to change the value by negative 1. So if it goes beyond negative 160, so obviously if you collect with the container, it's not going to go beyond negative 160. But if you fail to collect with the container and goes beyond negative 60, then I'm going to reduce the value of life by negative 1. And then now if I click on this green flag, and then if I let this go down, it's going to decrease by 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then it will go beyond negative 0, negative 1, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, like that, because I have not set the condition for lives. So in order to create a condition whether to check whether if the life reaches 0 or not, I can stop here, and then I can set the condition by going to the control block, and then here I can drag this one a little bit down, and then I want to check whether that particular life reaches 0 or not. If the life is 0, then obviously we're going to say game is over. So therefore I'm going to make use of this if block, and then here I'm going to check whether life is equal to 0 or not. So I'm going to go to variable, and then put this life inside this one, and then I'm going to check whether the life becomes equal to 0 or not. So if life becomes equal to 0, I will switch the backdrop, and then for that I will create a separate backdrop which says game over. So let's go to the backdrop, click on this backdrop tab, and then here I'm going to select the backdrop. So in this case I'm going to select this particular backdrop, this light, then here I will write game over. So game over, and then let me change the color. Game over. Click on this arrow to resize this. And maybe let's add another text as well, which says try again. Okay, that's perfect. So now when the score, or sorry, when the life reaches 0, or when there's no life, then I'm going to switch to this particular backdrop. So in this case, the backdrop name is light. So let's go back to our code, click on this egg, and then now we're going to say switch backdrop to light. So now when this green flag is clicked, it's not going to work because I have currently selected this backdrop. So it's going to start from this particular backdrop. So therefore, one thing I have to do is when green flag is clicked, I have to change the backdrop to the initial one. So for that, I will click on the switch backdrop and then put it somewhere here on the top. So I'm going to select the first backdrop. The name of the backdrop was stars. So when I click on this green flag, the backdrop should be changed to stars. So let's see what's happening here. So when I click on this green flag, so the game starts, and then I can collect. Then let me allow this egg to fall down, and then when it reaches 0, it should change to game over, and then it's switching this particular backdrop successfully. But the problem is these eggs are falling down continuously. So therefore, in order to avoid that, I can make use of the block called as stop all. So when life is equal to 0, switch the backdrop to game over, and then I want to stop everything. So now when I run this, when green flag, so I can let this egg fall down, and then when it is equal to 0, it will stop everything, and then it will change the backdrop to game over. Now the next part is I want to create the welcome screen for my game. So for that, I will again go back to the backdrop, and then this time I'm going to design a welcome screen. So therefore, click on this one, and then from here I'm going to select this blue sky, and then I'm going to create a text here. So I'll say welcome. So this, and then I will add another text. So I'm just including a sample text. Later you can add information about your game, how the players can play your game, some information about your game. But I just want to just demonstrate how you can add different text or information about your game using the home screen. And then maybe I can also add another text which says game starts in 3, 2 and 1, something like that. So I want to start the game right after 3 seconds. So this is the screen that I want to display right when I press on the green flag. Now when I click on this green flag, I want to start with this particular background. So therefore, instead of stars, I want to select blue sky too. So when I click on this green flag, the background will be switched to this one. Then after showing this background for 3 seconds, so go to control block, and then I'm going to wait for 3 seconds. So after waiting for 3 seconds, I want to switch to the next backdrop, so therefore I'm going to go to looks, and then I'm going to switch backdrop to, instead of blue sky, I'm going to switch to stars. So which means when I click on this green flag, you will see this screen. So after 3 seconds, I'm going to switch backdrop to stars, the initial backdrop, which is this one. So I want to switch to this backdrop. So let's see what happens when I click on this green flag. So when I click on this green flag, it will say welcome, and then it will wait 3 seconds, and then it will change the background stars, and then the egg will keep on falling down. But you may have noticed some problems in the code. So when I click on this green flag again, you will notice that this container is showing right after you click on the green flag. So this is the next thing that I want to fix it. I want to show this container only after it has switched the backdrop, and then when the egg keeps on falling down. So for that, I can go back to the ball. So what I can do is, when green flag is clicked, I want to hide this particular container. So as soon as the game starts, I don't want to show this one. I want to show this container only after the game starts. So when do the game start? Game starts right here. So when it switches to stars, and then when it starts to create a clone, that's when the game starts. So therefore what I can do is, I can make use of the broadcast block here. So I want to broadcast a message somewhere here. So what I can do is, I can use this broadcast block somewhere here, and then I can change the message, but in this case I will just leave it as a message 1. So after changing the backdrop to star 1, and then when the game is about to start, I'm going to broadcast a message, and then I'm going to receive the message from here. So therefore when I receive message 1, then only I'm going to, obviously after hiding it, I want to show this particular sprite, and then I'm going to move or follow this particular mouse. So therefore now this time when I click on this green flag, you will notice there's the welcome screen, and then only it will show this particular bar. So this is how you can create a simple game in Scratch. So when I click on this green flag once again, so it will say welcome to, and then it will start the game, and then I can collect the egg using the container. Then when I let this egg to fall down, and then when the life reaches 0, it will see game over, and then everything will stop. So one thing I can do is, right when it says game over, I can also hide this particular ball. So for that I can go back to the egg. So this is where the background switches to game over. So right after switching the backdrop, here also I can broadcast a message. So go to events, and then I can broadcast a message. So this time I can say game over. I can type new message here. So let's say game over as the second message, and then so when this backdrop switches to game over, so I will broadcast a message called as game over, and then this game over I'm going to receive by this particular sprite. So I will receive this message called as when I receive game over, then I will hide this particular ball. So therefore I'm going to make use of this hide block, and now when I receive this game over message, then I'm going to hide this one as well. So now let's click on this green flag, and then I will just let this egg fall down, and then when it reaches at 0, when life becomes 0, it should say game over, and then this ball is also hidden. So this is how you can create a simple game in Scratch. But later you can always improve the complexity of the game, or you can add levels to the game. So the simple way of adding the level is by changing the interval at which the clone is being created. At the moment I have kept it as 1 second, but if you want the clone to be created at faster interval, you can always change this second delay time. So instead of 1 second, if I put 0.5 second, you will notice that the clones are created at faster intervals, and then the clones will fall down faster than what it has earlier.